This video presentation will go over the types of bonds atoms form with each other. The reason atoms form bonds with each other is to acquire a configuration with 8 electrons in their outermost shell, other than hydrogen, which forms bonds to have 2 electrons in its outermost shell. The noble gases are the least reactive of all the elements, as they already have 8 electrons in their outermost shell and do not need to form bonds to acquire this configuration.
There are two types of bonds that can form between atoms: ionic bonds and covalent bonds. Covalent bonds are formed when two atoms share electrons to form a bond. When two atoms are bonded to each other with a covalent bond, it is called a molecule. Ionic bonds are formed when one atom gains an electron and the other atom loses an electron. When two atoms are bonded to each other with an ionic bond, it is called a compound. Here is an illustration representing the difference between the two different types of bonds. The sodium is donating an electron from its outermost cell to chlorine. Sodium is losing an electron and chlorine is gaining an electron. On the bottom is an example of the H2O molecule. The oxygen ion and the hydrogen ions are sharing electrons so that each ion has a full set of electrons in its outermost shell. The top example is an ionic bond. The bottom example is covalent bond. So which atoms form covalent bonds and which atoms form ionic bonds? Group 1 and 2 metals will form ionic bonds with nonmetals. Nonmetals will form covalent bonds with other nonmetals. Transition metals and semimetals can form either covalent bonds or ionic bonds. The next couple of slides will go over the rules for ionic bonding and covalent bonding. Ionic bonds will form compounds with a neutral charge. Sodium chloride, or table salt, is formed from a sodium ion, which has a +1 charge, and a chloride ion, which has a charge of -1. The ions come together to form a neutral compound. If a compound is formed between sodium and oxygen, which has a charge of -2, there will need to be 2 sodium ions in the compound for there to be a neutral charge. Covalent bonds do not rely off the charge of the atoms involved. There are still rules dictating the formation of covalent bonds, however. Group 17 elements will form one bond. Each chlorine here only forms one bond to the other chlorine. Hydrogen will also only form one bond. Group 16 elements will form 2 bonds. The oxygen here has formed 2 bonds to 2 separate hydrogens. Group 15 elements will form 3 bonds. The nitrogen here has formed 3 bonds to 3 separate chlorine atoms.
Group 14 elements will form 4 bonds. Each carbon here has 4 bonds connecting it to other atoms. Sometimes elements can form double bonds and triple bonds with another atom to fill their outer electron shell. In this illustration, regardless of the presence of double bonds, each carbon has formed 4 covalent bonds to fill its outer